So hello and welcome once again to another Project Cars 2 video and the community event. Today we'll be at the RedBull Ring GP circuit in the Aston Martin Vulcan, and coming up in today's video we'll be taking a fast lap around the circuit. As per usual, I'll look through all my settings, divulge a few secrets and what I've been doing to get the car handling a bit better. We'll take a slow ride around the circuit, and we'll also take a look at some of the areas where you could possibly be having a few problems, and then we'll take a look at the final replay. Let's get cracking. So yes, let's get cracking into this one. Well, the Aston Martin Vulcan, not particularly a car I've driven very much at all, and at the start of the community event I thought this is going to prove to be quite a nasty little number really. Not particularly a car I thought I'd enjoy driving, but once I finally got all the handling issues, especially regarding the corner entry oversteer, especially when you're under heavy braking, once I'd sort of managed to resolve that, the car does feel quite nice to actually drive around this circuit, and really did enjoy it. I mean, I'll take my hat off to the guy on PC that's managed to set a 124 almost flat. He's obviously nailed every set to perfect, but I certainly thought the 124.4 was probably my maximum I'd be able to achieve, especially with the car, how it's set up. But if you can find that sweet spot and you can get a better run through some of the corners and out of some of the corners, you might very well hit a low 24. So let's have a look at the lap in its entirety, flat out, and then we'll move on to breaking everything down. So let's take a look at this setup. Now it's named from my previous setup, the 124-900, which was the Ghost that I was racing during this setup. Obviously running the Pirelli slick tyres, there's all the softs and the hards, but you definitely want to be running the slicks for track events. It's slightly softer on the rear, as you would imagine with the PSI, and obviously the brake pressure is going to be something you're going to choose yourself. The car suffers massively with corner entry oversteer, so really just trying to bring that brake balance towards the front of the car and get the front end working really hard. Obviously the front discs are going to be taking a lot of temperature, so those are opened up quite a bit just to aid in reducing that temperature. And obviously there's only aero that we can apply to the rear, and 2 is the maximum. Caster angles on the front are set fairly, I think this is pretty standard 7.4. And the camber angle on the front, I've reduced this slightly. I was running 4.0, but just to enhance the rear cambers, I've brought the front cambers down. Ride height at the front's as low as it's going to go, and the front spring's slightly softer than maximum. The camber at the angle at the rear is just to really try and get that rear end to grip as you go through some of the corners. And the rear ride height's just adjusted to try and get the rake on the car just about, you know, at 1 centimetre between front and rear is usually where I would go. and the spring stiffness is slightly softer at the rear, as you'd imagine, trying to reduce those oversteer effects. The steering ratio is obviously going to be affected by what you would prefer. I'm running the GT3 wheel, so I want a really low steering ratio, and the toe-in angle is just to give some response at the front, and the anti-roll bar is set maximum just to try and aid in the oversteer again at the rear, and the toe angle on the rear is to just to keep the car as straight as possible under acceleration. Now the dampers, the ones that are just flashing there, the bump and rebound was set at a really funny figure really when I first came onto it. The default setting, the rebound was set lower than the bump, which is a strange one for me. And just on those rear ones, it might be worth adjusting those, just softening them out to reduce any understeer a little further, but I don't think it's worth it too much. Looking at the rear radiator, obviously we've closed it out, and the engine braking, I've just added one on that, just again to try and stop the car oversteering so much when you're coming down quickly through the gears. The gear ratios, we can't really do anything with that at all, and the traction control is off, but if you needed it on, I'd go for around 18. I am using ABS, and for the preload, I've just lowered this slightly again to try and induce a little bit of understeer on the corner entry, and for the ramp I've just increased again this up towards the 90 just so that you're not getting too much oversteer on corner exit, and the power ramp again is just to try and get the car to understeer a little bit more into the corners because it suffers with so much oversteer on corner entry. And that's the setup. Let's have a look at this slow ride. So as we start the lap, obviously it's always an opportunity to take a practice run through that corner. I do like how it just sweeps and dips as you come round. Obviously accelerating hard right way up into fifth gear, and just as we come towards just past the 150 board on the side, it's sort of in between there. There's a slight discoloration in the tarmac, and it's definitely worthwhile braking early for this corner rather than braking late and carrying more speed through it. And there really is a very specific line that takes time and time again to get right. We're going to run over this yellow sausage curb underneath the car, just to let the car run wide a little bit. You can take a little bit off onto the green there, but don't take too much or you will incur a little track limits penalty, which will make the lap void. Anyway, after the 150 board again, we're going to be braking sort of in between the two boards here, coming down through the gears into second gear, and a very tricky corner. You really do need to carry some speed around this corner just to aid in the traction as we come out of the corner. It's a really tricky one to get right, this one, because you don't want to take too much on the inside. It just sort of causes the car to spin, but you don't want to go too wide and just run out onto the bouncy curb there. So as soon as you round that corner, really do get your foot flat on the throttle as soon as you can. Even if there's a bit of wheel spin, it really does help. And again, just braking between the 150 and the 100 board, coming down, and then sort of a late into second gear as you hit this corner. Just allow the car to sort of run wide, and as soon as you can get traction, nail that accelerator as you come out of there. So as we accelerate up into fourth gear, just braking before the 50-yard board, and then just really hug this on the left-hand side, keeping nice and tight in third gear. You'll feel the car get to a certain point where you know you can accelerate out of the corner, braking hard just at the end of the red and whites on the left-hand side, and then as you come in there, it's really hard to get that corner just to settle. You want to be on the power nice and early through that corner, and then coming up to the last final bit, just between the 150-yard board, we're going to brake hard, 2 shifts down into third gear, and again you can take a tiny touch on the right-hand side of that curb, running wide, and again here just staying in third gear, just hugging that on the right hand side to be able to get the power down. I do love how it dips as you come through that section, and then just powering across the line. A tricky lap to nail, I'm sure you'll agree, but certainly one that I've enjoyed actually driving the Aston Martin. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with the replay and a few other pointers. So let's take a look at turn 1 if you try and get it wrong. I mean, carrying too much speed into this corner and just clipping this curb in the wrong way just sends you on a one-way ticket to the barrier. You really need to be careful of your line into this corner and out of it without making too many mistakes. There's so much time that can be gained through getting this corner right, getting early on the brake pedal, not trying to carry too much speed into the corner. But again, we don't want to scrub too much speed that we're not getting maximum acceleration out into the straight. As you can see, getting it right there looks easy, but it really isn't. Time and time again, you'll go through this corner to try and get the perfect line and the perfect exit. And luckily enough, I nailed it on this lap. Going to turn 3, again, just carrying too much speed into this corner and trying to get on the power far too early, again, just leads you into the barrier. You really do need to take your time on the entrance to this corner, get the braking done, and as soon as you're through the corner, again, I don't get it perfect on this one, but you really need to balance the acceleration and the brake, coming gently off the brake pedal and feeding the accelerator in just to get that perfect acceleration. Like I said, it's not nailed 100% on my lap, but it's certainly how that corner needs to be taken. And I think for the rest of the lap, it's just a case of feeding, braking hard and then easing off the brake pedal and easing in the accelerator, just to try and get that best acceleration in and out of the corner. So with that done, let's have a look at the final replay. Thanks for watching as usual. If you haven't already subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, leave a like. I read all my comments and I do try and respond to them all. Thanks for watching as always, and enjoy the rest of the event, and good luck. Ciao for now.